Hi, folks. Um, I got some bad news for you. Uh, for those of you who care, which certainly aren't that many. I am not out of the woods. It turns out. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die fairly soon here. I said that before I had my colonoscopy endoscopy, and after I got it all clear on that, I thought I was going to be fine. I was actually really happy, and for a week I actually didn't have as many symptoms, and I thought, oh, well, either it was all in my head, maybe I need to go see a psychologist, or, maybe it was something that cleared up on its own. But the symptoms are back, and they're getting worse now. And I'm pretty sure it's one of two things or three things. The fatal things would be pancreatic cancer, which you basically have no chance or very little chance from recovering from, which is definitely concerning. Um, so yeah, pancreatic cancer is one. It could be chronic pancreatitis. That might give me a shot of survival, but it's also very dangerous. And given the amount of time it's gone by with it, I've had this, which is since late January. It's now April. There's already probably significant damage to my pancreas in the let's see, February, March. Well, 2.5 months or so it's been, I guess. Um, so yeah, that would be nice. I'll take the pancreatitis at this point, because even though that would be bad, it would be better than the pancreatic cancer. The only other shot I have getting out of this alive is maybe there's an outside chance that I have a soft tissue sarcoma. I usually don't do this, but I'm going to show you here. I don't know if you can see. I've got this swelling right here. This is all swollen up right here. See this whole area. Um, so yeah, the only other thing it could be is I think a sarcoma, soft tissue sarcoma. There's an outside shot that would be a benign thing. And if it was benign, then maybe, even though it would be a difficult surgery, I could recover from that. Even though it's a difficult surgery, and certainly, there's lots of risk involved with that. I mean, none of these things are any picnic. But basically, I'm fearing it's probably pancreatic cancer, because I'm having all the symptoms now. It took me a long time. I mean, I can't tell you how much reading I've done. I've looked all over the internet at everything, and for some reason I only just came across. I mean, I'd come across pancreatic cancer as a possibility before, but I kind of, maybe I dismissed it because I didn't want to believe it was pancreatic cancer, because I knew that there was little chance of recovering from that. So I think I just kind of blocked it out as a possibility. Also, because I didn't realize how pancreatic cancer could lead to stomach pain. Part of the reason I'm making this video is to sort of spread awareness of pancreatic cancer. I'll tell you what my symptoms are. When I was looking for for information for a long period of time about these symptoms I've been having, and not really finding any solid answers. There's so many different causes for abdominal pain. Now my pain has become more sort of, as time has gone on, the symptoms have become a little more clear to me. I start to see them as a group rather than just abdominal pain. At first it was just abdominal pain. It was kind of like, I thought it was just acid reflux for a while. That's what everyone was trying to make me believe. I think one thing I can start by saying is that people are always trying to convince you that you don't have something bad, because I think they're in denial about it, and the chances are not high if you're young like me, even though, and that's what works against you in a way, because when you're young and you have a serious problem, people are going to want to dismiss you, generally. Friends, family, and especially the doctors, who's the worst of all. They're going to want to dismiss you because statistically you're not likely to have cancer. But I can tell you from personal experience, first I want to say this. If you feel that there's something wrong, if you know that there's something wrong in your body, and I mean I know it's hard to say that because some of these things can be psychosomatic and you don't really know, it's hard to say, what really knowing is. And I think that's part of the problem, is that doctors don't really know when people are making things up versus, actually have something that's a little less common. Um, But if you're not the type, I mean, I have friends who are hypochondriacs, um, and I feel for them. They definitely go a little far. They freak out and probably freak out more than they need to. But if you're someone like me, I mean, I wouldn't. I definitely. I made a joke about having cancer for a long time. That's working against me too. I would always say, oh, anytime I had any kind of an issue, it was, I must have cancer. And it was kind of more of a dark humor thing than actually. I never actually believed I had cancer most of the time. One time I thought I might have been having a heart attack, but I think it was just gas. Um, but I wouldn't say, I never really took it that seriously. I never went to get scans unless there was something that I really felt that was wrong. I rarely made doctor visits most of my life. Um, And I made one a year ago, maybe. Yeah, it was about a year, a little over a year ago now. I don't know if that's related to what I have now. Maybe it is. Maybe it was the beginnings of this. I'm not sure. That was the only time I went to the doctor and actually got a scan done. And the CT scan of my abdomen I got done then showed nothing. They couldn't find anything except for some what they call intra-abdominal fat. I don't know if that's related to what I have now or not. I don't think it is because I think it was lower down on my abdomen and this is higher up. So for whatever reason, whatever if this is related to what I had then they missed it. They gave me a CT scan, no dye. So maybe if you're really worried about something, you kind of insist on the dye because it seems to me like if there was any way that I would be surprised if there wasn't even a sign whatsoever of this problem a year ago, and if it was there a year ago, they missed it. But you never know. This could have grown within the year. I'd be surprised if it grew that fast, but it's not impossible if this ends up being aggressive, which means I really don't have long to live. But so yeah, if you're gonna get a CT scan, get the dye. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, even though I made a lot of jokes about having cancer and worried about my health, most of the time I knew that I was fine. 99% of the time, really. Only once did I actually ever go to the step of seeing a doctor about it, and that may be related to what I have now. So yeah, I mean, people like to think of me as a hypochondriac, but the reality of the matter is I never acted on it until a year ago. And now I wish I hadn't listened to people. I wish I hadn't listened to my friends and family tell me I was going to be fine. And I really wish that one other thing: when you go to the doctor and you feel like you really have something, do not write or do not tell them that you've had depression. I let them know that I had depression on my form, and it's possible that could be the worst thing I've ever done, worst decision I've ever made, was to let them know that I had depression. Because once you tell them that you have depression, they are less likely to believe you. They're more likely to think you have emotional problems, and they will discount your illness. They'll act like, especially if you're young like me and you're low statistical likelihood, they'll tell you, oh, it's just heartburn, or they'll assume, they won't give you any kind of real diagnostics, And there's another reason to make this video is because modern medicine really sucks when it comes to young people with serious illness. It really does. It blows because all they do is look at you as a statistic, and you can try to tell them till you're blue in the face that something is really wrong, and they will just, they'll just look at their chart that says how likely it is that somebody has something and be like, oh, well, this guy probably doesn't have this, so we're not going to bother. I don't know. Maybe that's just my doctor, Maybe there are other doctors that, will listen to people. And maybe, like I said, it's because I wrote I was depressed. Do not write you're depressed. Do not let them know you're depressed if you have something seriously wrong with you, especially if you're young. And the chances are not good that they're going to take you seriously. But I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. Um, so yeah, they're less likely to listen to you and get you the scans you need. And that's really another thing you should know about doctors is most of the time they're just guessing. And it's more like a process of elimination than any real kind of, they have knowledge and they can sort of suggest things, but you know, not once did any doctor suggest I had anything wrong with my pancreas. This is something I figured out all on my own. They did. There was one doctor, I went to the ER. I went to the ER when I saw the swelling that I just showed you right here. Um, and, because of the swelling, I was like, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong. I thought it was my spleen. I didn't know where the pancreas was. I found out it was the spot where the pancreas was, not the spleen. But so I went and they did do an ultrasound, and sometimes they can find pancreatic cancer with ultrasound. But you know, before I saw the results of the ultrasound, they came and talked to me, and they'd taken a lipase test, which sort of checks your pancreas to see if it's if it's produced, or checks your blood. I'm sorry, to see if it has enough of the what is lipase? I don't know. It's excretion of the pancreas, an enzyme. It's an enzyme. Um, and my lipase levels were normal. So I guess they assumed I was fine, and there was no obvious problems with my liver based on the ultrasound. But what they didn't tell me, right after they discharged me, I found out that they couldn't see my pancreas. It said that there was gas in the report, was blocking it. Um, it was kind of, it seemed like even they didn't really know 100% because they said, well, it was gas, but it was also body habitus, which basically means that they think that it's like when I looked at body habitus, it meant that there's something about the body, like maybe fat or something like that, that's preventing them from seeing it. Um, but it's like, well, which one is it? Is it gas or body habitus? It doesn't seem like they really knew. It doesn't seem like they bothered to try to figure out why they couldn't see my pancreas, which is why I am. If I find out that I do have pancreatic cancer or something like that, I may consider malpractice lawsuit at this point because I feel like, I went to the ER for this and I had an obvious lump over the area of my pancreas and they couldn't get a definitive answer and they just decided to dismiss me because act like, like it didn't matter. I mean, I don't even know if I'll be alive to see the malpractice suit happen, but at this point, I would certainly hope that my parents would take it up just so that, I feel like, I mean, it seems kind of malicious thing to do, but if I die, there's a chance that my survival was threatened or I may have lost time, and I'd like to see my parents, or I'd like to see them at least benefit from that a little bit and maybe give the money down to my sisters and my niece. Be nice for them. So yeah, I hope that they consider that. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. We'll see more about that later, depending on what I end up having. Um, but so yeah, the ultrasound was not definitive. They dismissed me, and even worse, after dismissing me, I went to see the GI doctor about the same problem, and they scheduled an endoscopy, colonoscopy for me. And even before they'd done, like I think a couple days before the endoscopy, colonoscopy, they called me to tell me, oh well, they saw you in the ER and they didn't see anything abnormal, so we're gonna cancel the. They had set me up for a CT scan, I think, after my colonoscopy endoscopy, and they said, oh, we're gonna cancel your CT scan because they couldn't find anything. And it wasn't that they couldn't find anything; it was that they didn't bother to find out why they couldn't find anything. You know, there was a sign of something blocking my pancreas, and which was the reason I went into the emergency room in the first place. And instead of trying to figure out what that is, they canceled the only test that could have a CT scan that could have looked at that and see what was going on. So This is gross incompetence, is what this is. And it makes it all the worse because I wanted a scan from the beginning. I wanted a scan back in early February when I first went to my primary care doctor. I asked him to do if he would do an ultrasound. He refused to schedule an ultrasound for me. I went to the emergency room with the idea that I was going to be able to get a scan done. Either a CT scan or an MRI. I really wanted an MRI. And they gave me the ultrasound, which I was kind of satisfied with for the moment because I thought, well, maybe if there's something really abnormal, they'll be able to see it with the ultrasound. They should have been able to, but they didn't, and they ended up canceling the scan that could have found whatever I'm suffering from now because of that ER visit. So I guess what I'm telling you is, if you know there's something wrong with you, basically what this gets around to my point. Doctors, a lot of time will be your worst enemy if you're young and you have a serious problem, And in the end, my doctors will have only reduced my survival chances by their behavior. I don't know if this is just something, just as a warning. I'm with Partners Healthcare, is the name of my group. I would not trust Partners Healthcare. I would not trust Cooley Dickinson Hospital. They bungled my care. Especially if you're young, maybe if you're older, they do a better job. But for me, it was an utter and complete disaster. It's looking like. So, anyway, so yeah, kind of like if you know that there's something wrong with you, stick to your guns. Basically, don't let the doctors push you around. They have a short time to see patients, and they kind of take control of your patient interview, your appointment, and sort of tell you what they think is wrong, and they don't really allow you a lot of the time to voice your concerns. They give you very little time. The healthcare world is more about seeing patients in a timely manner than it is about giving everyone complete and quality treatment. So if you know that what you have is worse than what they think you have, and you feel like you're getting dicked around, or you feel like they're kind of rushing you through the process, I recommend that you really take control of your appointment. Let them know. I got to get a little pissy in my last appointment with my primary care doc, and it was only by getting pissy that I was able to get referral to a GI doctor. So if you have to be vocal, the squeaky wheel gets the grease in these situations. So speak up for yourself. Make sure you get the whatever you think is needed. And on top of that, when I ended up going to get my GI appointment, what I really wanted was a scan. I wanted a CT scan or an MRI, especially. On a side note about this, CT scans expose you to a lot of radiation, so doctors are, reasonably reluctant to give you a CT scan because the more CT scans you're exposed to in life, the higher your risk of cancer is down the line. So I get that part of it, That's the one place where I know doctors are thinking of your health, and I understand that. But if you know there's something wrong with you, I mean, I asked for an MRI. I really wanted an MRI. MRI is very low risk. There's no radiation. They give you a gadolinium dye that can affect your kidneys badly, but I don't think it's pretty rare to be a serious complication. And problem is MRI is almost twice as expensive as a CT scan, and so doctors are reluctant to schedule one for you or order one for you. And the other problem with MRIs is they're so good at seeing the inside of the body that oftentimes they'll find things that may not be a disease, and then they feel compelled to do kind of exploratory surgery or do some kind of procedure where they subsequently afterwards find out that it was a pointless procedure, that there was no pathology, or there was no illness. And that's why they're reluctant to do MRIs, because they don't want to be put in a position where they feel like they have to do an unnecessary procedure, because it'll be bad. They have to do it if they find anything, because otherwise it's a malpractice suit. But if they, but a lot of times, they'll find something, they'll go through with it and find out there was nothing wrong, and the patient's health is worse off in the long run because of it. So I understand that there are, potential. It's not as black and white as I make it out to be. But at the same time, if you are fairly certain that there's something wrong, and I was fairly certain from the beginning of this that there was something seriously wrong, I had a strong inclination. The amount of pain I was feeling was basically, if it's anything out of the ordinary, if it's pain beyond what you're used to feeling, if it's something that's sort of out of your normal scope, I'd had pain in the past, I had gas pain in the past, I'd had, kind of change in bathroom habits in the past. But this, was significant pain. I could, especially if it wakes you up in the night. And here's was my symptoms, just so you have an idea for anyone who's worried about pancreatic cancer. My urine has been orange. Not always. Sometimes, that's one of the other hard things about these things, is that sometimes symptoms are intermittent. They're not, it's not, nothing is 100%. You know, often my pee generally has been darker over the last, maybe month and a half, something like that, maybe 2 months even at this point, almost since the beginning, really. My pee has been darker, kind of an orange color. That's a sign that you've got, I think maybe bilirubin in your urine. They actually tested my urine early on and found a high level of bilirubin, but it wasn't high in my blood. So they just assumed, oh, well, if it's not high in his blood, then it's no big deal. And they've actually had 2 blood tests where my bilirubin wasn't high in my blood, but yet it seems like it's appearing in my urine for some reason, not my blood. I don't understand what that's about. But I do know that my, orange urine, that's one sign to look out for. If your urine is unusually dark all the time, I can make my urine clear if I drink enough water. But if I drink an average amount of water, it's orange. And, I'd seen it amber before, but orange is kind of a really dark amber to orange. I mean, that was unusual. So that was major symptom number 1. Number 2, I was waking up at night with abdominal pain. It woke me up. Usually you're not going to be woken up in the middle of the night with pain unless, you can be woken up. GERD is something that can wake you up in the middle of the night. And me waking up in the middle of the night might be related to GERD. But I'd had heartburn before, and I'd had a combination of heartburn and apnea before, but this is a different feeling than that. This is a more significant feeling of pain. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like a heavy burning sensation. I mean, that's what GERD feels like. What is it called? That's what heartburn feels like. But it's hard to explain. It wasn't just that, it was like this kind of nausea, intense nausea, and pain, not just not just a burning sensation, but kind of abdominal pain and a tenderness. I noticed tenderness lying on my side, like a strange feeling, like there was something in my body that shouldn't have been there. Um, a strange feeling when you're lying on your side. I think lying down and feeling a strange feeling, that's something else to watch out for. If you have a bowel movement that floats and is lightly colored, clay colored, looks like it's fatty, or you have fat floating around the water, that's another warning sign. It means that your food is not being digested properly, and that may be because the ducts that provide the enzymes that break down your food, or the bile, are damaged somehow. So yeah, that's another major warning sign. Usually it's a clay-colored stool that floats. I know that's a little gross, but I'm trying to be, give you a best idea of what's going on here. So I only had that maybe 2 or 3 times since this whole thing started. So again, these can be intermittent things. It's not going to be every day. The orange pee, not every day. Waking up in the middle of the night with pain, not every day. That's one of the things that's so tricky about this pancreatic cancer, is intermittent symptoms. And when the symptoms go away for a while, you think, oh, I must be better. And then they come back, and usually worse than the first time you had them. Now, mine haven't been particularly worse yet, but, definitely not better. So yeah. Um, Another thing you have to watch out for is pain in your back. Pain that's in your abdomen. Mine is right here, left side. It's kind of constant. This whole area just feels wrong on a regular basis. And it radiates to your back. It's kind of, for me, it's sort of in the middle, maybe a little under the shoulder blade, but kind of significantly under the shoulder blade. I don't know. There's some right under the shoulder blade and kind of a hole, maybe, 5 or 6 inches underneath the shoulder blade, maybe 7 inches under the shoulder blade is all. It hurts, and it hurts more when I'm lying down. I notice it more when I'm lying down. Let's see, what am I forgetting here? Indigestion on large meals. If you eat a large meal or a fatty meal, you'll feel nauseous and you'll have a lot of gas, and you're gonna feel like you're burping too much abnormally, and you're gonna feel like you're in a lot of pain until you do burp. Like you have this painful kind of this sort of continuous it's a nausea combined with it's a light nausea combined. It could be more serious nausea. For me, it's been mild nausea. See, there's the belching right there. Nausea combined with kind of a soreness or kind of a dull pain, not a soreness, a dull pain all around the abdomen, usually mostly near the top, and burning. You get more heartburn with this. You get nausea and just a general feeling of discomfort and bloating and gas. And you have to burp a lot to feel better. And for me, it's hard to burp. I'm not good at it. It's never something I've been able to do easily. So yeah. And you have to pass gas more too, but not as much as the burping. The burping seems to be the most common thing that really I really notice I feel a lot better after I burp, but that doesn't mean that you're better. And a lot of people could have have a lot of gas after a big meal. Like it's not common, not uncommon. But I think the difference is the sort of feeling of nausea. I don't usually, before when I'd have a big meal, I would get like acid reflux. It would make me kind of like feel like the food was coming up my throat. You may have had that feeling before. This is different than that feeling. It's not really food coming up your throat. It's more of like a intense burning pain right here underneath your ribs, kind of in the middle, and nausea. I think the nausea is the thing that really kind of separates it. Nausea and feeling like you have to belch to feel better. Now by itself, I'm sure that could just be. It could be GERD. If you had extreme GERD, maybe it could be that. But I think it's the combination with the orange pea and the floating stools, the clay-colored stools. That's when you have to start worrying. I think that's what really kind of put it together for me was once I realized that the pea and the stools combined were signaling something to me. That was when I put it all together. The other thing I have, which is probably where you're further along and where I'm really kind of in trouble, I feel like, is you'll feel a swelling, probably maybe like a bump on your neck. I had a bump on my neck. Everyone, my mother and father tried to convince me they're, a doctor and a nurse, and they tried to convince me it was just a sebaceous cyst or something like that, which, it can be. You have hair back there, you can get folliculitis back there, which is just an inflamed hair follicle. But, this was a fairly big lump. It was kind of subcutaneous. It was underneath the top of the skin. And, it's actually gone now. It's, whatever was in there has popped or, moved on, which is, kind of weird. I kind of assumed it would stay like that, but I have read that you can get swollen lymph nodes in your neck area if you have cancer. So I don't know if that was a swollen lymph node there, where whatever was in there kind of filtered out, or not. But that was certainly another thing that made me nervous. It's gone now, so who knows? I don't exactly know if they usually stay swollen or what. If that was, maybe it was just an infection or something. It wasn't. Maybe it wasn't a swollen lymph node, but combined with everything else, it certainly gives me another reason to worry. And let's see. I think so. Yeah, that's the problem with these things. I've said a lot of things, and really the only things that are kind of unique to that pancreatic cancer versus just GERD itself is the is the the color of my excretions or whatever. The color and character of things that come out of your body. I'm just going to put it that way, so I don't have to keep saying these things. But you know, that's one of the reasons why this is a hard disease to detect, because it mimics other things. Oh, and the swelling right here too. I mean, maybe swelling that might have something to do with it. But I think another key thing is that it used to be I would get GERD when I eat a big meal, and you get similar symptoms to this when you eat a big meal also, but it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't have to be as big of a meal, I guess. Usually I'd get GERD or symptoms like GERD when I stuff myself to capacity. I could feel like I couldn't eat anymore. This has been happening when I eat, a fatty meal, but I don't eat to the point where I feel like I'm going to explode. I can, even if I eat a relatively big meal, even if I eat a relatively fatty meal, I'll have serious symptoms, and that wasn't the case previously. So I think it's sort of like taking the experience of GERD and kind of amping it up, and that combined with the other things I've said, I think you have to start being afraid, especially a combination of this bulge right here, not being able to sleep through the night, um, and the colors of my urine and stool. Those all combined, and plus just the feeling. The other thing is that with GERD, I think GERD tends to be. Here's the other key thing. With GERD, it tends to be kind of a one-day thing. You eat a big meal, you get GERD, you feel like crap, and then eventually it goes away. If you don't keep eating big meals, then GERD isn't really a problem. It's not a continuous problem. I mean, it can be, but usually you have to indulge a little, overindulge to get a case of GERD. At least I did. This kind of thing just seems to happen almost regardless of what I eat. I wake up feeling like I'm dying. I wake up feeling this gnawing pain and this nausea, and I can't sleep lying down. I'm gonna try to go to sleep lying down right now, and I may pay for it. I'll probably wake up feeling like shit, and that's just what's gonna happen now. I'm not gonna get better. I don't think. I'm pretty sure. It's been since January, so it's been about 2.5 months, like I say. If you have something for longer than a couple of weeks, then chances are good that it's not just some minor thing. Even if you have something for 3 to 4 weeks, at that point I would be worried if I was you. And I'm worried now. I'm expecting to hear the worst. The worst part about this whole thing is that because they didn't give me a scan before this whole coronavirus thing started, now I'm left unable to get a scan because the hospitals are so overwhelmed with coronavirus patients that they're not scheduling scans for people. So I'm out of luck now. I don't know, I have a doctor's appointment over video appointment at 2. I don't expect it to help me very much. I just want a scan. I know that's the only thing that can prove what I have, because these doctors have not been able to figure anything out otherwise, and that's what they would do if right now anyway. I know that they would send me for a scan pretty much immediately if it was normal, times were normal, but here we are in coronavirus time, and I can't get a scan, and the longer I wait to get that scan, the less chance I have of being able to survive this thing, and my chances are already pretty low, so I guess it doesn't really matter much. But yeah, it's this is a bitter pill to swallow. I'm 39. I'm gonna turn 40 in late May. I assume I'm going to make it to late May, but there's no guarantee of that. Um, and I mean, I realize people get cancer young. You always sort of think to yourself, well, that's not going to happen to me. But I'm fairly certain it's happening to me, and it's a bummer. You know, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I've been going back and forth. I'm at a stage in my life where life just gets harder um, from 40 on. I mean, maybe it would be different if I had a career I was excited about and family, or at least a significant other. But I don't have any of that, and I'm mostly looking at disappointing things moving on. I love my family, and my family's getting old. A lot of my aunts and uncles and my parents are getting up there in age. I'd have to watch them die soon. I have to watch my other dog die soon. I already saw one of my dogs die soon. Now that, there's an actual chance now that my other dog could outlive me, which is kind of sad. Because I don't want him to be sad when I'm gone, but he'll still have his favorite, my mom, so that's good. Um, but yeah, you have to watch yourself kind of grow decrepit, lose your hair, become totally invisible to attractive members of the opposite sex that are, mostly on the younger side. I hate to say that, but everyone knows that younger people are better looking. Um, Generally, anyway. And I was looking at a long career and something that didn't particularly interest me, computer science or web development / computer programming. And at least I won't have to. I probably won't have to do that anymore. Is what I'm thinking. That'll probably. I think as soon as I find out that I have what I think I have, that I'm going to just not bother learning this stuff anymore. It's been kind of fun on some level. I mean, I like programming; it's kind of entertaining. But it's not so entertaining that I think I would really love doing it for the rest of my life, and I don't think it would overcome a lot of the negative things that I'm set up to experience. So, on some level, maybe this is good. And, with the world, I mean, who knows, this coronavirus thing, as I said in my last video, this could be the beginning of the end, potentially. My friend texted me saying, I think this could really be the end. We always joked about the apocalypse since we always knew it was kind of approaching. Um, so, he texted me, maybe this really is the end this time. And, it could be. I mean, this could be the beginning of a lot of problems. I know the climate is spiraling out of control at an increasing pace. So, you know, maybe, I always like to think that maybe God wanted to take me out of the equation before things got ugly, so I wouldn't have to experience the kind of suffering and pain that's going to come at the end of civilization. But I don't think I'm that special in God's eyes, particularly because I'm not the greatest human being. I'm just a mediocre kind of guy. I'm somewhat nice. I try to be nice. I try to be friendly, but I don't go out of my way. I've never done very little volunteering. I think I did a few beach cleanups in my life. I have never really done help feed the poor, or it always to me just kind of felt like a very small drop in the bucket that wouldn't make any real difference. And it does make a difference. That's not the right way to think. I had planned on helping to campaign for Bernie Sanders until it became clear that I was ready to go do it, but it was like here in Massachusetts, it wasn't really. I thought anyway that there was, that it would be. I assumed that Bernie would be a good competitor. Turns out Biden won the state easily, and maybe I should have volunteered in Massachusetts, but it seemed like the writing was on the wall after South Carolina anyway, and no amount of campaigning in the state would have made much difference in the long run because everyone decided that Biden was the guy, which is another sign that people are never going to figure out what they need to do to get out of this disaster. I mean, Biden's okay; he's better than Trump, but he's not really the answer. Bernie was the answer, or You know, I don't know. I think Bernie was the only answer that really made a significant difference, and now he's just been buried, and I think he's mostly done, unfortunately. Um, who knows if we'll even have this election now? Coronavirus, they'll tell people to stay at home, and Trump will probably take over and become a fascist dictator. And I say that tongue in cheek, although it's not exactly impossible. Let's say that. Maybe I'll be happy not to witness all that because he is a dangerous man, Trump. Um, I don't think he's the devil incarnate, but maybe. It's not impossible. Certainly, he's got the biggest ego in history, and he's got a cult of people who believe in everything he says unquestioningly, and are willing probably to kill for him. I think that maybe they would be willing to kill eventually, which is certainly a terrifying prospect. Um, but who knows if I'll be around to see any of that. Um, you know, maybe in a way this will be a lucky thing, but I don't think so. I'm more inclined to believe that when I die, that'll be the end. I've been reading the Bible more, Ecclesiastes, it's Old Testament, but they say that it's kind of funny. He acts like he sort of says everything is vanity, and don't bother thinking that anything's going to happen because you'll just be dust in the end. That's all. And then he talks about God reclaiming your soul, and it's kind of like, well, what does that really mean? And are you your soul? And how much consciousness do you have as a soul? And when you rejoin, the spirit world, do you have any kind of independent existence there? It's and then there's the whole question of whether or not there is even a spirit world. And you listen to atheists and they say there's nothing. There's nothing. You are the and they don't know, but their idea is, well, why make up things? Why make up things for which there's no evidence? That's what faith is. Um, and at this point I have faith just because if I don't have faith, then the alternative is pretty unthinkable. Non-existence for eternity. But that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at either non-existence for eternity or some very vague reality of a spiritual life after this one. And both of those things are intimidating to me. So I still want to, even though I may have gotten a bad break here, I did have my life was, in a lot of ways, it was a disappointment. I didn't become what I wanted to become. I didn't feel like I ever achieved any kind of true purpose. Um, I had small purpose. I think if I had a purpose at all, it was to make people laugh, just my friends and family. And I think I did that. So I consider that something of an accomplishment. If I did anything in this life that was worthwhile, it was to make my friends and family laugh, which I try to do a lot. But otherwise, my musical accomplishments are pretty much negligible. Um, and I'm not going to leave much of a legacy. Um, you know, I like to think I made the planet a better place because I treat people, I think, with decency. But I didn't go above and beyond to make the world a better place. And in a lot of ways, I contributed to the resource overuse of resources and climate change, all those kind of things. Dying will dying young will lessen my impact a lot, which is one of the few positives about me dying young, is at least the world will have the strain of my first world lifestyle taken away from it. But hardly reassuring, as you can imagine, to me at this point. So yeah, that's I guess to wrap up. I've gone almost 45 minutes here. Thanks for watching. I may make more videos. I'm not saying this is the end, but I just wanted to give people a heads up. If you have symptoms like I have, take them seriously. Um, get checked out and be the boss of your experience with the doctor. Don't let the doctors push you around, and don't tell them you're depressed. Do not tell them you're depressed. They will assume that you are making things up. Um, Go in there and pretend you're a real impressive figure. You're doing great. If you have to, lie about what you do for work so it makes it sound. Don't tell them you're unemployed. Tell them that you're like a web developer between jobs or something like that. Make up something. But you have to. They have to respect you before they take you seriously. So you have to kind of conjure respect out of thin air because they're not going to give it to you right off the bat. So yeah, if you have symptoms like the ones that I described, take it seriously. Um, you know, uh, get a scan done if you can. I know that there's risk to doing the scan, like I mentioned, but if you know that there's something seriously wrong, you're better off getting the scan because the scan can see everything at once. It can see your colon, it can see your um, liver, it can see your pancreas, it can see small intestines, everything, esophagus. Um, so yeah, if you can get a scan, and also maybe don't go. Try to get out of a rural place. See if you can get care in a place that's a little more like a city because here it took me a month, over a month, to see a gastroenterologist, and I guess that's not unusual from what I've been reading. But if you can see a specialist sooner than that, oh yeah. Another point of advice: if what you have is really bad and you really think it's going to be something that needs to be taken care of, you can always pay for the stuff yourself if you have the money. Obviously, most people aren't going to have the money. I didn't want to pay for it myself because I didn't know if it was serious or not in the beginning. But looking back, I could have maybe had a better chance to live if I just sucked it up. I had the money that I could have spent. I didn't have a lot of money, so I thought it would be irresponsible to spend it. But if they refuse to give you a scan, then just go find a place to pay for it. You can find, even if you have to fly somewhere to get a scan done, do that. I would do that if it wasn't for the risk of coronavirus. If I get coronavirus at this point, since I may already be compromised health, it could kill me. So that's the only reason why I don't run out and get a scan. And I might just go do it anyway. Get myself put a mask on and just shower after I get back and try not to touch my face. But if you can get if you go to the right place, you can get like an MRI for under $1,000, which is a pretty good deal. That's still expensive, but it could be worth it if they're jerking you around. So consider that. And it tends to be cheaper if insurance doesn't pay for it. Um, so yeah, um, yeah, be your own advocate. Don't let them control your patient experience. If get emotional and upset if it's gonna. I mean, you don't want to get too emotional upset because then they treat you as like a hostile patient and they won't do anything for you. But really, don't let them rush you through an appointment. Make sure you are in control of your health. Don't let the doctors be in control. If you know something's bad, and don't trust them. Um, you know, don't trust them to tell you what's wrong when you know something is wrong that they're not getting. If you have a feeling like there's a disconnect between what you're feeling and what they're telling you, then you know, um, stand up for yourself. And I guess that's it. I'll keep you updated as soon as I get a scan. I hope I make it till then. I'm not coughing up blood yet, so I don't think I'm that close, but I'm getting closer every day. I'm sure to um, something to a more kind of dire state, and I'm pretty terrified. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't have that much time left, I think, um, and I really would love to see friends and loved ones, even though they have no respect for me. But I would love to see them anyway because I do love people, regardless of the fact that they don't respect me. Um, and it's a shame because with coronavirus, who knows? I may not be able to see anybody. So I'm making this video with you people virtually. I can't see you, but you can see me, and it's good to feel like I'm talking to someone. So thanks to those of you who watch it, and I guess I'd say wish me luck, but I don't think that's going to matter much. So I'll keep you informed after I figure out what the hell's going on. But I think I celebrated too early, and it's not looking good now.